What if I told you you could hit dominating forehands just like this by mastering 8 simple steps? In today's forehand lesson, I will show you those exact 8 stages that every single professional player uses to dominate with their forehand. And within just the next 30 minutes, you will know exactly how to go out by yourself and implement these stages into your own forehand using some of my favorite drills I've learned over the last 10 years. Also, make sure you stick around to the end of the video where I'm going to show you a secret move around contact that the pros use for more topspin and power. Before we get started with the video today, I just want to say that I'm currently in Bristol, which is a little bit of a different location for me. Usually I'm in cloudy Wales, but today I'm very fortunate because this fantastic venue here, Coombe Dingle Sports Centre, has allowed me to use their courts. And they've got a fantastic selection of outdoor courts, but also indoor. And they've also got a range of other sports here. It's a really cool venue. So if you're in the area in Bristol, definitely come check out this venue. It's definitely worth it. The first thing you need to get right if you want to go out and learn a good forehand is the grips. You need to make sure that you're on an acceptable grip, otherwise everything else is going to break down. So the first thing you have to understand about the tennis racket, okay, is every racket will have 8 bevels on the racket. And if I come up close here, you'll see that bevel number 1 is the top bevel. So see how the bevel, it lines up with the edge of the frame. That's bevel number 1. Now, going in a clockwise manner, it goes bevel 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And every racket will have these 8 bevels on it. And it's very important that you become aware of these bevels and where they are. Now that you're aware of the bevels, the main bevels you have to be conscious of for your forehand is bevel 3, which is called the Eastern forehand grip, and bevel 4, which is called the semi-Western. Anything within these 2 bevels is an acceptable forehand grip. Okay, that's very important. The areas you want to avoid on the bevel system is when you go too far up towards bevel 2. So this is here, the side bevel to the continental. And also if we go over to the other direction to bevel 5. Now the next thing is all about the 2 reference points you have on your hand. And these reference points are essentially going to allow you to find the grip very easily. Okay, so what are those reference points? If we look at my hand here, I've gone and I've actually drawn in the 2 reference points on my hand. And those are the index knuckle. As you can see, I've drawn an X here on the index knuckle, and also my heel pad. So I have these 2 main reference points, okay? Very important you become aware of these. What I've also done is I've drawn a line here on the side of my index knuckle. This is going to be a visual aid because now you're going to be connecting this line up onto the lines I've drawn on the grip. As you can see here on bevel 3 and bevel 4, you see these middle lines? The middle lines represent the middle of each bevel, okay? So the basic grip I would recommend for beginners, if you just started, go with bevel 3. So this is bevel 3, the Eastern forehand. I'll show you from this angle. This is bevel 3 right here. Lines up with the string face. Okay. Now, how do you go about finding the grip? What you do now is you essentially connect the dots. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect the X on my heel pad up with bevel 3, with the middle. As you can see right there. Now I'm going to bring the index knuckle up and see how when I go up to here, look at the lines. See how they connect in here. And now I've found bevel 3. So one more time, you can take it back off and then check again. Connect the heel pad, then bring the X up on the index knuckle, connect with 3. And there you have the Eastern forehand grip. If you're using bevel 4, again, same thing. You just connect the X with bevel 4 and the X with bevel 4 on both sides. And that's essentially how you go about finding the grip. Now that we have your grip set, it's now time to move on to the next stage, which is all about your preparation. Now, before we even talk about the preparation, the first thing you need to get in place is what we call your ready position. Now, what is the ready position and how should it look? The first thing you're going to see in your ready position is your feet should be around 1.5 to 2 shoulder widths apart. Very important that you have a wide athletic foundation. The next thing you're going to see from the side angle, my elbows are out and away from my body, as you can see here. The most common issue we see with players is the elbows are tucked in, and then when they start to prepare, they activate the arms back behind them. And then the last couple of things, push your hips slightly back and roll the weight slightly up onto your toes. This is your ready position. So once you've got your ready position set, what happens next? The next thing that's going to happen From here, I anticipate the ball is coming to my forehand, and I'm going to initiate the preparation by turning my shoulders away from my target. And if you look at this very closely, see how my arms are doing very little. I'm just keeping the non-dominant hand connected to the racket and now just turning the shoulders away. And you should turn to a point where, looking from the side angle, see how my non-dominant arm is now parallel with the baseline. And at this point, I've completed my preparation and unit turn, as you can see right here. Now on screen right now, you can see some incorrect preparations, and look at the difference. See how it's not an upper body movement, it's more with the arm. Now, why is this an issue when you just activate the arm by itself? The first thing that happens when players don't prepare with the upper body and they just use the arm, the backswing becomes too big. So see how the racket has gone way back behind my body. And now it has too much distance to cover to get to contact, and you're most likely going to end up being late around contact, which is a very common issue which we want to avoid. The second thing this causes, when I just prepare with my arm by itself, I now cause a desync between my hitting arm and the rest of my body. What do I mean by that? I mean that I'm now not going to be able to get any power from the body. I'm most likely now going to just swing with the arm alone. So I now eliminate all the power source coming from the kinetic chain. And as you'll see later in this video, the kinetic chain is a vital component for your forehand to develop not only power, but also consistency. Now, after you've completed your preparation and unit turn, what should it look like at the end? At the end of this preparation, you'll be in a position where the weight is going to be loaded over the outside leg. I can change the stances here. I can go from an open to semi-open to neutral. So this applies to all stances. The next thing you're going to see is my arm structure. If you look at my arm structure, my elbow is still raised away from my body. My wrist is slightly cocked. That means the tip of the racket will point slightly up to the right side. And I have this good stable structure. Also see how both hands are remained on the hitting side of my body. So I haven't gone too far back behind me. I'm still in this good position here. And then one last thing, looking from the side angle, you can see that non-dominant arm is out, parallel with the baseline. The reason that is so important, it makes sure that my upper body is turned sufficiently. And again, later in the video, we'll talk about why this is so important to turn your upper body. Now that we have a good understanding of the theory of the preparation and unit turn, how can we go about working on it? What I'm going to do is just show you my favorite drill for each of these phases of the forehand. And for the preparation, what you can do is put your racket down, set up in your ready position, so get the feet 1.5 to 2 shoulder widths apart. But now cross your arms along your chest, as you can see right here. Now what I'm going to do from here is simply turn the shoulders away from the target to the point where my shoulders should now line up with the right side fence for a right-handed player, left side fence for a left-handed player. And just do that several times where you just turn over that outside leg and use hold. And what you should try to start to tap into is how it's an upper body movement. Watch a few more times. Turn, hold. One more. Turn, hold. Now from here, after I've turned to this position, I can now step forward and imagine I'm swinging. Watch that one more time. I turn, step forward, swing. And then the last phase, you can add the racket back in your hand, get to your ready position again, elbows out and away this time. And what you want to do is just do the turn first. So turn the shoulders away and stop and feel this position. Do that a few times. From here, reset back, turn. Feel the arms are doing very little. It's just the upper body preparation. Now from here, you step forward and swing. Now let's move on to stage 4 of a good forehand, and that relates to your swing path. Now your swing path on the forehand is very important, and for this video I'm going to split it into 2 segments, okay? The first segment, or the first principle, is a basic principle you'll see with all the topspin ground strokes, and that is once they've completed their preparation at the end of the unit turn, the swing path is going to be a high, so they start high, just around shoulder level, then they go low, then they go back high. So the swing path is a basic high, low, high swing. Now, why is it a high, low, high swing? The reason you want to develop this high, low, high swing shape is because tennis is a lifting game. What do I mean by that? If we were to look at the net from the baseline, because we can see through the net, we can see the entire other side of the court. Now, if I was to black out that net completely, what part of the court would you see? Look on the screen right now. I'll black out the net and tell me which part of the court you see. As you can see pretty much nothing of the other side. So that tells us that we have to lift this ball up over that net. So what should you focus on when you're working on this high-low, high swing shape? Once you've completed your preparation and unit turn and you're set up, I'm just going to show you from a neutral stance for the time being. Once you're here, you should feel that the hands and racket are just below shoulder level. Okay? When I say high, you don't want to go too high to where you break shoulder level. Definitely keep it just around shoulder level at this point. Now from here, let gravity take over and let the racket fall down. And when I fall down, I'm falling into what we call the slot position. We'll cover the slot position a little bit more detail in a few minutes. But now it falls down low. Now when we say low, what does that mean? We always reference it to the incoming ball. You want to make sure that you get your racket and hand beneath the level of the incoming ball. Now how much? Exaggerate. Feel that it's at least 1 foot beneath the level of the incoming ball. That's a good exaggeration. Now, once you've got beneath the level of the incoming ball, providing you have the right grip, you now lift back high. And by achieving this high-low, high swing, what are you going to start to get in terms of ball flight? You're going to get topspin. And remember, that's when the ball rotates end over end, and that will allow the ball to clear the net with more net clearance, but also dip back into the court, which will give you safety and allow you to be a lot more consistent on the court. Now let's move on to the second principle of the swing path, and that is what we call the inside-out segment. Now, the inside-out swing is a major power generator on your forehand, and it's because you get a lot more leverage and a lot more racket head speed when you achieve it. But what is the inside-out swing? What this essentially means, if we relate it now to that high-low, high swing, what you're going to do, you'll be at the end of your preparation. Now the racket and hand will fall down into the low segment. Now, when it falls down here, we referenced it earlier, this is what we call your slot position. Now, what are the keys about the slot? The first thing you see, the racket and hand are on the inside position. They're close to my body, as you can see here. Most players, what they do is they get the contrary. They are too far away from the body in the slot. Okay? So you want to be nice and low in this slot position. Now, the next thing you see, my racket face is sufficiently closed. It's closed at approximately a 30-degree angle to the ground. That's a good guideline. My butt cap is pointing towards my intended point of contact, and this is what we call the inside slot position. Now, from here, what am I going to do? I'm going to swing from inside or from close to my body to away from my body. So when I swing to contact, watch closely how my racket and hand, they move out and away from my body, here. And now I'm swinging on the outer circumference, which means I have a longer lever, which is going to give me more racket head speed, but also it's going to help my racket move in a true low to high manner around contact, which will help me generate that topspin. Now, here is my favorite drill to help you work on the swing path, and it'll help you combine both elements, the high-low, high circular swing, but also the inside-out swing. Now, the drill is essentially, in the self-feed, what you're going to do, you'll toss the ball up and you'll give the ball just a little bit more height. And by doing this, your objective is you're going to swing underneath the ball. Now, by swinging underneath, what's it going to force me to do? It's going to force me to get low and below, also on the inside. And then when I swing underneath, I then lift to the high finish. Let me just show you a couple. So I set up here, neutral stance, the end of my preparation, toss, swing underneath, and hold. Do that a few times. You set up, toss, swing underneath, and hold. And you really start to tap into the feeling of getting below, exaggerating, getting there. And then what you can do is trick your brain and essentially feel like you're going to swing underneath the ball. But then at the last second, you swing to contact and you make contact with the ball. So it looks like this. I set up, I think swing underneath, and I hit. Show you one more. Set up, I think underneath, and then I hit. Just like that. That's a very good exaggeration and a great drill to help you with the swing path.
Now before we go into the next element of this video, which covers the most important element of any swing, I just want to quickly say that I know a lot of you watching this video, number one, you're probably struggling with your forehand. That's why you're watching this video. But also number two, when you're watching videos like this, you probably feel quite overwhelmed because there's so many elements on the forehand you can work on, and you may be struggling to really identify which element relates to you the most because every player is different. Now, the way you identify that is really all about video analysis. You have to video yourself, so then you can slow it down and start to see which of the elements are breaking down for you. And right now we have a special offer for just $10 where you can get a personalized video analysis of your own forehand by an OTI instructor. So all you got to do is just go out, film your forehand, send it over to us, and an instructor will analyze your forehand and pinpoint exactly what you need to focus on to take it to the next level. And also for the $10, you also get access then to all of our training videos. So we will link training videos which relate to your forehand. And this is all within our members area. So if you're interested in this and you're interested in finally eliminating the confusion on your forehand, then go beneath this video and you'll see a link there which will allow you to get this video analysis by the instructors. Now let's talk about the most important part of any swing, and that is the contact point. Now the contact point is the moment of truth for your strokes. So up until this point we spoke about everything in terms of preparation and your swing path, and everything back here is just to essentially optimize this contact point. Now what are some of the keys about your contact point? The first thing you want to see is the contact out in front. You hear coaches all the time say contact the ball out in front, out in front. Now the first question we've got to ask is how far in front should it be? General guideline is approximately in line with the front leading foot, as you can see. So it's out in front of my body. You want to avoid anything like this where it gets behind your body in this position. This will essentially kill all of your power and also your consistency. So contact point out in front in line with the front foot approximately. Now, the next thing you're going to see is the angle of my racket face. What you should see at contact is the racket face should be vertical, straight up and down. You don't want to see anything like this where the racket face is closed or the racket face is open, because tennis is based on physics. If the racket face is open like this, where's the ball going to go? It's going to fly long. Same if the racket face is too closed. The ball is going to dump into the net or at best go very short. So you want to see the racket face vertical, straight up and down. Now the next thing you're going to see from the back angle, my contact is diagonally spaced away from my body. So many players, they have the opposite effect where they feel jammed a lot of the times, and that's because they are too close at contact. So pay attention to my elbow for this. See how at this point my elbow is tucked in, touching my body. Now feel that you're pushing your elbow away from your body. And when you push your elbow away from the body, my contact spacing goes diagonally away, out in front to here. And this is why this inside out swing is so important, because it allows you to get to this position at contact. Now the last thing you want to achieve with your contact point is where it is in relation to your body. Now the optimal is going to be approximately around waist level when you're striking the ball. That's where you want to strike. So somewhere in this waist to core section right here. The key areas you want to avoid is when the contact point drops too low. You're in a very defensive position when you're down here. And also when the contact point goes too high, above shoulder level. You're not very strong up at this point. So you want to find this strike point, this contact point where it's around waist level, and you want to defend this strike point. So whether that means you move back if the ball is coming deeper and it's pushing you back. So now you're letting the ball fall back into your strike zone. You can even on these balls, you can step in and take the ball early, but you always want to feel now that you're starting to defend this strike point. So always try to take the ball at around waist level. Now, how can you go about working on your contact point and understanding it? What you can do is use a fence. It's a very good way to work on your contact point. Now, when you're doing this, what I'd recommend is you isolate in the beginning. So already start from your neutral stance. So we're eliminating the unit turn in preparation. Now the next thing is, in terms of how close you should be to the fence, looking from the side angle, you can see I'm around 2 to 3 feet away from the fence. This will allow me to ensure that the contact point is out in front. Okay? Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start here at the end of my preparation. I'm going to go down to my slot position and now swing forward to contact and stop. And when I reach contact, I should feel that, number one, the racket is spaced diagonally away from my body, and my racket face is vertical straight up and down, as you can see from the side. But also, because I got the space into the fence, you see that the racket face is out in front of my body, as you can see right here. See that a few more times. From here, I go down to the slot, swing away from my body to contact and stop. You can also see that I'm contacting the ball within my strike zone, which is approximately waist level, around this point, right here. And again, I go down, swing away. And then what you can do, you can step away from the fence and do the same thing. You swing to contact and stop, and start to become very aware of your racket head, where the racket head is. The racket head awareness is going to be a vital component to when you actually go out and start to hit balls. Most players, when they do their shadow swings, it looks like this. They come to contact, the racket face is completely open or it's completely closed, and they're reinforcing bad habits that way. So become very aware of your racket face when you're swinging on all the strokes. Let's move on to stage 6, which is all about now your extension and hitting zone. Now, as mentioned earlier in the video, the hitting zone is essentially the secret that all the top players use in order to be consistent day in, day out. Now, what is the hitting zone? The hitting zone, in basic terms, is the length of time that your strings move out towards the target. So what you want to see, I swing to contact. Now the strings, my racket and my strings are aligned currently with my target. What I'm going to do from here, this is what all the best players do, you lift the shoulder, and by lifting the shoulder, my racket and strings is going to lift forward and upward out to my target. If you look at this also from the back angle, look at my string bed. Look how they go forward and upward out to the target, right here. And you want to at least get to a point where the hand is now at approximately shoulder level, and the strings are still facing my target. Now, the problem we see with a lot of players, they do the opposite. They swing to contact, and then they pull the racket across the body to get to this finish position. But what happens with my strings and racket face when I pull? Directly after contact, my strings are pointing in the opposite direction to my target. So this means I have to now time this perfectly in order to get the ball going where I want it to go. So now you're just relying on timing. And if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you feel a little bit off that day, you don't want to be in that position where you're relying on this timing. So what you want to do instead is feel that you're lengthening the hitting zone. You're lifting the swing forward and upward out towards your target. Now, the one other quick component you're going to see when you swing to contact, this is the extension element. We know that we want to swing out towards the target, but look how far my hand goes away from my body. See this space in here, look how far away it is. Most players, including myself when I first started playing, I would come to contact and then I would break my arm. And my hand would never really go away from my body. It would just come across in this direction. So feel that you're also extending away with the hand, away from your body out to the target. Now, how can you go about working on this extension and your hitting zone? One of my favorite drills for this is a very simple drill. You're just going to hit a couple of balls where your whole focus point is just lifting your shoulder to your chin. And you're actually just going to stop here. You're not going to let the racket finish. By doing this, you're not actually going to hit the ball very hard because you're not going to your full finish position. All this is doing is giving you the feeling of extending away. And really feel the shoulder is touching the chin when you finish. Let's see a couple here. I lift to this point. Watch one more time. Lift and hold. And I really exaggerate that lifting up to this point. Now, after you've done that a couple of times, just lifting the shoulder to the chin, you can now increase the difficulty of the progression, and you can start to hit some balls in a self-feed down the alley. Now, by hitting down the alley, it starts to give you a good visual aid to if you're swinging correctly around contact. Now, what do I mean by this visual aid? If you see that your ball moves in a straight up and down line in the alley, it tells you that you've sufficiently extended out towards your target. If you see the opposite, where it looks something like this, where you swing and the ball pulls over to the left, it tells you that the swing has pulled too much. So by hitting balls down the alley, is a very good visual aid to track your ball flight. And you can start to see then if you're swinging in the right manner around contact. Now let's go on to stage 7, which is all about the finish position. So up until this point, we've covered everything in terms of your preparation, your swing to contact, your swing through contact, but what happens with the racket in hand when you get to your finish position? Now, for the basic fundamental forehand, what you want to see is a good high finish position where I want you to physically catch the racket with the non-dominant hand. And when you catch the racket up high, you should see a few things. First thing you see is the hands are high, above head level. Okay? The next thing you see when I finish, I'm going to hold my finish. I'm not going to move after. I want to stay on balance. Let me just show you a couple here. I'm just going to selfie the ball for myself. I'm going to go through lift to this high catch. And as you can see, I've caught the racket up high and I'm remained on balance. Now, why is catching the racket up high so important? For your basic fundamental forehand, it promotes this low to high swing by getting up to this position. Now, the pro players, when you watch them in regular speed, when they hit at full speed, do you see them finish here a lot of the times? Yes, you do. The problem is the naked eye can't pick up what actually goes on through contact. If you slow them down, you actually see that they still extend out to the target first, and then only when the hand is reaching somewhere around shoulder level, then the racket will break across to this point. The problem is when we watch them in regular speed, we think that they're just going straight to here. So we go out and we try to copy that. So this high catch position is going to promote this low to high swing, but also this extension out towards your target. Now, going about working on this, just keep it very simple. Take a couple of balls, you can self-feed them to yourself, and physically catch the racket when you finish, and hold the finish for at least 2 seconds. So look, something like this. I'm going to start from my neutral stance, go through, lift, and hold. Watch again. Go through, lift, hold. See one more. Just going to go through, lift, and hold. Just like that. And that will really start to give you the feeling of having a more consistent forehand when you get to a high finish and you hold your finish. Let's move on to the final stage, which is all about using the body on the forehand. So up until this point, we've covered everything in terms of how you prepare, how you swing, what goes on through contact, but how does the rest of your body now relate into your forehand? There's 2 main elements I'm going to break it down into, okay? The first element is the use of your upper body. Now, how are you supposed to use the upper body? If we relate this all the way back to the beginning of this video, we spoke about your preparation and unit turn, where you turn the shoulders away from the target. Now, by doing this, by turning the shoulders away, it not only helps you with the preparation, but now you start to tap into coiling the upper body against the level of your hips. And when you start to coil your body like this, you store energy, elastic energy in the muscles. And when you store this energy, the energy is released when you start to swing to contact. And that release of the energy gives you more racket head speed and more power. So that's the first segment. You turn the shoulders to the point where you're turning against the level of the hips. Now, stage 2 goes into the use of your lower body. And what you'll see, you see this with all the best players in the world. When they step forward, or regardless of which stance they're using, when the racket and hand begin to go down, they go down with the lower body. So they're coiling against the ground. And then as they swing forward, they stand back up. So it's a sitting down and standing up motion. And by doing this, you're going to start to engage the kinetic chain. Now, working on the use of the body, a very simple drill you can do. You can use a bucket like this, and this is going to be a good exaggeration to get the feeling of the using the lower body especially. And what you can do is start already in your neutral stance, and you've already completed your turn. Feel now at this point, you're turning the shoulders against the level of the hips, so you're coiling energy in your trunk here. And now from here, I'm going to imagine that I'm sitting down on the bucket, and then I'm standing back up as I swing forward. Watch again, I reset, I sit down, stand up. Now, granted, this is an exaggeration. You're not going to go this low when you hit a ball. All this is doing is starting to exaggerate the feeling, because most players don't use the body at all. So you have to exaggerate in the other direction. So you can give this a try, and then also you can even hit some balls like this, where you go down and up, really exaggerating the use of the lower body. So in summary, in today's video, we covered the 8 key fundamentals for a good forehand. Now, going forward, the way you work on this in a very progressive manner. So do your shadow swings, then just take a couple of balls and try it on a self-feed by yourself on the tennis court. And then if you want to get that personalized video analysis for just $10, you can find the link for that below. And trust me, it will really help you take your forehand to the next level over the next couple of weeks. So you can go ahead and check that out. But then otherwise, I just want to say a big thank you for watching the video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to subscribe and also like the video so you can see more like this in the future. And also right now, you can go ahead and check out our case study video that we did with our student Gregory, and he completely transformed his forehand, and that video is up on YouTube right now.